Rolling sound, quiet. Here we go. Read it. 1:26:7. And starting right and action. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Lone Star Film Festival Film Talk for the feature film Fully Realized Humans. I am William F. Reed. I'll be the moderator, for lack of a better term, or you can just call me a cool guy. That's fine too. For this awesome film talk, joining me today is the writer and director Joshua Leonard. Welcome, Joshua Leonard. Hey man, how's it going?
Good. You look like such a cool guy.
Hey, that's so crazy that you say that, because that's
the first thing I thought when you came on. They said you were a moderator and you popped on, and I was like, he just looks like a cool guy.
That's exactly what I've been saying this whole time. Finally someone's on board with me. Hey man,
thank you for having me. It's so
nice
to be here.
I
wish I was there in person. This damn COVID stuff has really impeded upon connection with audiences, which is such a bummer.
Indeed it has. And I'm sure that there's going to be a pretty big audience for this film. It's in my opinion, it's one of those perfect little gems because it's the right length for an independent like comedy.
It's really great because it's really short.
Well, at the end of the day,
the primary attribute that I would critique you on and give you credit for is the fact that it is not a lot of minutes long. It's a 72-minute film, in and out.
Yeah, it moves so fast. It is so much fun. And I got to tell you up front too, when I was watching the film, I'm one of the programmers, and I was watching the film, and I was like, man, I know that guy. We've met. I know that guy from college or something. And then of course I saw your name in the credits, and I was like, oh, okay, God, the face was so familiar the whole time. And so it was just, in that when I was in college and thinking about film and coming up, you became, a staple, or your face anyway, became a staple as a young person. So I got to be honest, it's a real pleasure to get to chat with you for a little bit today, especially about a film that is so, I like, and this isn't just blowing smoke, man. I really, really enjoyed the film. Coming from an independent background, you're always looking for ways to tell a story, it cheap and keeping it in one spot and all these things, and you nailed it on the head with this. And not only did you do all those things, from what I could, from it looks like you kept it all in one spot mostly. Well, not all in one spot, but you kept it accessible.
Very contained.
Used what you had access to, it seems like. But I'm getting off the track here. For those of you that may not have seen this film yet and are watching this Q&A, I'll give you a little bit about what the film is about. So it's with less than a month left until the birth of their first child, Jackie and Elliot embark on a madcap journey of self-discovery in order to eradicate the inherited dysfunction of their own childhoods to become, fully realized humans. So I guess my first question is, you mentioned that you set out to write this script because both you and your collaborator, Jess, who is absolutely fantastic in the film. She's one of my favorites. I saw her in a short film a few years back, and she captured my heart from that point on. So you guys were both recently parents. You were about to become a parent, and she had, or vice versa, actually, I guess, because she was pregnant.
Vice versa, because Jess is actually legit 8 months pregnant while we're shooting the movie. And you see that there's a couple of shots of her belly that we did not have the budget on our film to mock up a fake belly that looked that good.
That looked great.
She was actually, Jess was 8 months pregnant. I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time, so I was a fairly new father. And just as as friends who Jess and I have been collaborating on and off for over a decade, and have become very dear friends as well. And I knew, some of the existential fear she was going through, kind of on the precipice of this whole new chapter of her life, and it was stuff that I was really grappling with as a new father. The big transition that you make, even if you called yourself an adult beforehand, how much more real that gets when you're responsible for another person's life. And I had this idea and it was the loosest idea. It was essentially, the idea was what you just read, was with a month left until they give birth, these two people try to become fully realized humans. And I pitched this to Jess actually when she was 6 months pregnant. So I came up with the idea. I called her. I was actually out of the country at the time and had been for a while, and said, look, I'm going to be back in California over the holidays for about 2.5 weeks, and I'm wondering if we can make a movie during that time. You'll be 8 months pregnant. Here's the idea. It'll be fun. We'll make it for no money with our friends, and if it's terrible, nobody will ever see it. So low stakes, except for the gestating life inside your uterus. And because Jess is such a baller of a human being and creative force and dear friend, she said yes. And so we started kind of going back and forth just on just talking about how to keep it contained, but also how to keep it entertaining, and how to take some of the real life concerns that we had and hyperbolize them to the point where they'd actually be funny to watch. So there's a lot of, it's funny with this film because it's so, on one level, it's so dumb, and these people do such silly, insane things, but the root of why they're doing it and what they're attempting to do is actually, I think, for both Jess and I, some of our most honest work. So there's some real serious seeds of kind of revelation of our inner selves buried in this absolutely ridiculous plot.
Yeah, but I think that's why it plays, in my opinion, it plays so very well, because it's absurd, but like the root of it, like you said, so many people are going to be able to relate to this. So many people out there are going to be like, yep, we know exactly what that fear was like, and not wanting to cross that bridge, or not willing to, find out what that dark room led to me as a person, all those different things. And so I think that's why it plays really, really nice. It's one of those, I think it's one of those films that, like, when people find it, it's gonna have that, like, that effect on a certain like people that are having kids. Like it'll become like that thing that's shared among them, as like a shared experience, like that.
That'd be so cool.
Like
your mouth to God's ears, brother.
Yeah, let's do it.
That would be awesome. And the flip side is, it was just in comparison to things that I've done in the past, and I think partially because Jess was pregnant, so that was the only thing that we really had to take seriously. Was the fact that she was taken care of while shooting 8 months pregnant. So a lot of the kind of false sense of importance of making a film just went right out the window. You're like, this is just, let's just have fucking fun, guys. Let's have fun and make sure that Jess is safe during this process. So it actually was a very it was a joyful process making this film, because the end result wasn't necessarily the most important thing. Right. And it happened really fast. We made the film. It's ostensibly a 12-scene film that we shot over the course of 7.5 days.
Yeah, so that was my next point. So you're shooting with, bare bones crew. You're shooting with, a co-star who is, pregnant, and not that there's just inherent things that come with living life and living in a body and having things happening within you. How on earth did you guys shoot that entire movie in 8 days? Was there a lot of improv, or was it just play? Or
the dialogue, I would say, is 95% improv. Wow. Which is actually, we'd done another feature together, The Lie, which we took to Sundance in 2011, I believe. And that was done the same way. And I have to give all credit to Lynn Shelton and Mark and Jay Duplass, who I've worked with a bunch, who have set up a framework for this kind of shooting, which is essentially you approach the scripting of the treatment like a 3-act narrative film, where you really understand what the arc of your entire movie is. You break that down into scenes. You understand what the objective of each scene and each character is, And essentially what you leave out is you leave out the dialogue. So the dialogue we figure out on the day. And then there's another huge chapter of that, which is a lot of those scenes, you run with two cameras and you're continuously shooting. And some of those scenes would run 45 minutes or an hour as we shot them. So the next huge phase of shooting like that is figuring out how to take that 45 minutes and turn it into 6 minutes in the edit room. So it's really a choose your own adventure in the edit, which is another part of what I'd also consider the scripting phase when you make a movie like this.
Now, so it's always a challenge when you write something and you're directing something, but there's another step that you're in the film as well. So when you are concentrating on your character and getting into the moment and doing those things, did you just have guys behind you that you could trust, that you knew, your AD or other people that were there watching your performance that you knew were gonna?
What AD?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so how?
No, we didn't have an AD. We shot this with an 8-person crew. What I will say is, I think there are many situations where that wouldn't work out, and where where a director really needs single focus or an actor really needs single focus. In this specific one, the way that we set it up, and the fact that the team that I made this with were almost entirely comprised of either long-term collaborators, Ben Kasulke, who shot the movie, I've worked with on 5 films before. A bunch of the actors in the movie, Jen LaFleur, Ross Partridge, Zach Shields, Janixa Bravo, are all very dear friends. Erica Chitty Cohen, who plays our doula in the film, is in fact not a professional actor, but was in fact my wife Allison and my doula in real life. So she actually is a doula and not an actor.
Cool.
So yeah, I think under different circumstances that might have been tricky. Under these, I just had an embarrassment of trust and shorthand with my team of collaborators, which made it much easier for me to kind of straddle those different duties.
Speaking of straddles and duties, you take some risks.
Not good there, man. That's a terrible transition on this movie.
But you take some risks. You take some risks in this film.
Yeah.
It's funny and it's silly, but you go some places. When you were kind of scripting and when you were about to shoot these the different parts of the film, was there ever a part where you're like, we'll shoot it and we'll see, like, let's try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Or were you just like, no way, we're gonna make this and we're just gonna take these risks, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't.
Well, here's what I'll say is when you make a 12-scene movie, kind of every scene really has to work, because architecturally one scene gets you to another, and if you pull, if you've got a 40-scene movie and you lose a scene, you can figure out different ways around it. We knew that if any of these scenes didn't work, that we weren't going to have a bridge through our film. So it wasn't so much that that we were like, let's shoot it and see if it works out, and if it doesn't work out, we'll edit around it. It was more like, let's shoot it exactly the way we want to do it, and let's make an entire film for $5, and if it doesn't work out, then $5 lost and an experiment gained. So I didn't necessarily have any confidence that it was going to work, but we also kept the financial stakes low enough that it was okay to experiment. And if it didn't work, it didn't work.
That's great. So like, for like, you've been in this game for a while. Do you have tailing off of that? Do you have any sort of advice that you would give the young filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers out there that are like, man, I just can't make a movie because I don't have the $20,000. Man, I just can't make a movie because I can't get a camera. Do you have anything to say about that?
It's so funny because I for years and years, I've always been lucky enough to walk in these two worlds since Blair Witch, where I could go off and do bigger stuff as a gun for hire and kind of make a living doing that, and then come back and and make my own stuff with my friends. And I really do love working that way. Um, and but I think part of me for years felt like the little stuff that I did was the fake stuff, was just a hobby. And then the older I get, the more I realize that um, that like that's who I am and that's what I do, and that's I may be making $5 movies until I'm too old and tired to make it anymore. And I really think I had an opportunity to work as an actor with Steven Soderbergh a couple of years ago in this movie called Unsane, where I play the bad guy, and 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 I was on set with Steven, and he shot the entire movie with an iPhone,
All right.
and he, on the dolly scenes, he was like in a wheelchair, like kids do in film school. They don't have money
Yeah.
for a dolly, so they get in a wheelchair. And it was just, I was making a movie with, arguably one of the most important filmmakers of our generation, and he's sitting there in a wheelchair holding an iPhone 7
Yeah.
and just loving the process of making a movie. And
Yeah.
and that's a guy who's made, many $100 million movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, man, that's what it's about, is like, how do you go out tomorrow and make your movie? Like, how do you tell the story? And if you're seriously waiting around for like, I can't do the shot without a crane, I can't do this, like, then you're actually missing out on the thing that audiences care about, which is, do you love what you're doing? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you have a connection with the material? And do you have a story that's important enough to tell? Everything else is forgivable.
Yeah.
And I got that lesson in spades with Blair Witch, which was my first film, which literally looks terrible. It's a movie that looks terrible and it sounds terrible, and we say stupid things, but it connected with audiences,
Mhm.
and in the ways that a story told in a unique way with a unique voice can really do. And I don't think there's any rules or boundaries on that.
I
So
absolutely agree with you.
yeah, I think
Make your movie.
yeah, make your fucking movie, man. Watch it, like, stop watching David Fincher and think you got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just make
There's
it. Like
a lot of other examples.
some of my favorite parts of filmmaking are those moments you talk about. I can't make a movie because I can't get that crane shot. Some of my absolute favorite parts of being on set are like, all right, well, we can't do that. What can we do? And you were talking about your collaboration with all these creative people, and they're all in the same thing, and everyone gets together and you find a solution. You find a way to tell your story, to end that scene, to do it. And it's oftentimes you look back and you're like, well, that was 10 times better than floating away on a crane shot. That means way
Yeah.
more to me. So I am absolutely in agreement with you on, you make your movie, get out there and make your movie. If you have a phone, you can make a movie. So I know we probably got to wrap this up. I'll ask you this. You've been a dad now for a couple of years. This film is called Fully Realized Humans. I'm curious, kind of a two-part question. Number one, what is your thought personally on what a fully realized human is? And number two, are you a fully realized human yet?
Yes, William, I am. No, I mean, that's the joke of the film, is there's no such fucking thing as a fully realized human, and of course I'm not that. That's the joke, is that these characters set an absolutely unattainable goal, and I think the stakes and the pressure to want to be as the best human you possibly can be, in the face of of recognizing your own trauma from whence you came, and things that your parents probably inadvertently did to you, that you had to do a lot of therapy for, or that hurt you or scared you growing up, and wanting to not pass those things along, but also the ultimate acknowledgement that we are inherently flawed and inherently imperfect, and um, and and that it's all in the trying. It's all in making the trying the most important thing. And I just,
that's probably my favorite part of the film is that sort of like coming around to being like, oh, right. Like, just like, you know, we're all trying to become, like, if you're trying to be a better person every day of your life, then you, in my opinion, you are. That right there, you fully realized what a human can be.
And that's really, you know, that's really the moral of the movie, and what I, you know, I want to continue to explore in my life and work as a theme, is just this notion of like, we're all really messed up. Like, we're all really, really flawed, messed up people. And how do we not make that an excuse not to be compassionate and to love each other?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get over our own fears and our own flaws in order to in order to love each other compassionately?
And that's the beauty. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly look forward to whatever stems from that thought right there the next time. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to wrap things up here. If for some reason you haven't yet watched Fully Realized Humans, do yourself and everyone you know in the world a favor and watch it right now, and tell everyone you know about it, because man, it is a lot of fun. And like Joshua said, it's not gonna kill your time bank. You're gonna watch
it's
that
really
and be
short.
Like, man, that was fast and fun and a little furious too. Thank you so much for being here, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, William. I really appreciate it.